Today is all about order of operations with fraction bars. So when solving order of operation problems with fraction bars, it's important to solve all of the problem that's on the top in the numerator before solving the problem that is on the bottom. So these are actually like two separate pieces of a problem. Then you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator, just like you would if you had a fraction problem and you were trying to simplify it. So let's look at our first example. And there's two ways that you can work out this problem. Both are fine with us. It's just whichever you prefer. You can either work sideways across your problem, or you can work from the top and from the bottom and then combine them at the end. So I'm going to show you the first example of how to work top to bottom, because this one doesn't, in example 1, it doesn't have any extra pieces, so it's a good candidate for working the top and the bottom separately. So your first option is to work the top section of the problem and go up. So if I look at just this part of the problem, what would I solve first? Am I going to do the grouping, or am I going to do the multiplication? And remember, you're still following your order of operations for this lesson. So I'm going to do 8 minus 8 first, which is 0. So I have 0 times 1. And then 0 times 1 will be 0. So I worked the top of the fraction up backwards. And then I have 9. Now I have to take these two pieces and put them together. 0 was on top of the fraction, 9 was on the bottom of the fraction. And if I do 0 divided by, because a fraction bar just means division, this is division, 0 divided by 9 would be 0. And that is the answer to your first problem. Number 2 is another good one that you can work top to bottom, or if you want to work it side to side, that's fine too. So if you worked it side to side, I'm always going to start with the top first. You would do 1 plus 4 would be 5, and then absolute value of that would be regular 5, positive 5. And this is still all over 2 plus 3 to the second power. And then I could do 5 on top. 2 plus 3 would be next, which is 6. Oh, no, sorry, not 6. 5 to the second power. Then I could solve 5 to the second power, which would be 25. Now once I get 5 over 25, sorry, I had to move that, I can't do 5 divided by 25, so I'm actually going to use my simplification rules. They end in 5 or 0, so I'm going to divide by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. Now, if you liked the first method where you kind of worked it upside down, you can still do that with this problem. You'll get 5 up here, and then you could get 5 to the second, and then you got 25. And then just join the pieces back together to get the fraction. Both are fine. Okay, let's look at example number 3. Now example number 3 looks a little bit different because I have a fraction to solve, plus I have the extra stuff on the outside. So I'm going to work it kind of like a mix between the two. So I'm going to do 13 times negative 4. And 13 times negative 4 is going to be negative 52. So I'm going to work with this fraction first. And then I'm going to put it back together. Negative 52 over 2 times 5 minus 13 to the 0 power. I'm going to finish this fraction right here because I can just divide negative 52 divided by 2. Remember, a negative divided by a positive, negative divided by a positive is a negative. So this is negative 26 times 5 minus 13 to the 0. Grouping next over here, exponent first. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Finish the grouping. 5 minus 1 is 4. And then we have negative 26 times 4. 26 times 4 is 104. And a negative times a positive is a negative. So it's negative 104. So that's how you'd work a problem like that one. And then number 4 is just working a problem with a straight up fraction in it. And you guys look at this and you're like, oh, fractions, oh no, but it's really not that bad. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the grouping. I'm going to do this absolute value here. Absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. So I have 1/3 times 27 plus 3 plus 7. Now I need to do this multiplication that's right here. Now I have to go back and think it back in my brain. How do I multiply fractions? 27 goes over 1. Multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. 1 times 27 is 27. 3 times 1 is 3. So now I have 27 over 3. That looks familiar. Plus 3 plus 7. Finish this fraction, which is division. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And then finish. I have to do the addition here, which is 12 plus 7. And 12 plus 7 is 19. Alright, so I want you to try number 1. Pause the video here, see if you could figure out what the answer would be to number 1. So 4 to the second power, that's written out 4 times 4, which is 16. 2 to the second power is 2 times 2, which is 4. And then I have 16 over 4. And if I do the division there, because I can divide 16 divided by 4, I get just 4. Go ahead, pause here. I want you to do number 2 on your own. So if we look at number 2, I'm going to work out the exponents first. So 2 to the third power is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Over 1 to the second power would be 1. So now I have negative 6 plus 27 over 1. Anything over 1 is just itself. Remember from our fraction rules. Because 27 divided by 1 would just be 27. And then I have integers right here. They have different signs. Different signs find the difference. So I have to do 27 minus 6, which is 21. And it's positive 21 because I have more positives than I do negatives. Okay, let's turn our page over. I want you to try number 3 on your own. And when you're ready, unpause the video and we'll walk through the problem. So if we look at this problem, I have negative 6 minus 10. Negative 6 minus 10, remember they have same sign, simply add. So that's going to be negative 16. And then I have 10 plus negative 9. They have different signs, find the difference. So that's 1. So I have negative 16 over 1 plus absolute value of negative 9. I can finish this grouping. Negative 16 divided by 1 is negative 16 plus the absolute value of negative 9. Absolute value of negative 9 is positive 9. And then at the last step, I have different signs, find the difference. And I have more negatives because 16 is the greater number. So I have 16 minus 9. It will give me negative 7. Go ahead, pause here, try number 4 on your own. So I'm going to recopy this one down here, just so I have a little bit more working space. I'm going to do the multiplication first. Negative 2 times 10, which is negative 20, plus 6 at the in the front. These have different signs. Different signs find the difference, so I get negative 14. Bring the two pieces together. I get negative 14 over negative 7. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. Okay, I want you to pause and do number 5 and number 6. Remember, this fraction right here is being multiplied times whatever is in that absolute value. So just make sure you're very, very careful. So I'm going to rewrite this one just to give myself a little bit more working space. So I'm going to do the first grouping first. So I have 3 minus negative 4. Remember, the dancing negatives come together and make a plus. 3 plus 4 is 7. You can leave it in the grouping. Then I'm going to solve the second grouping. 7 plus 1 is 8. And then the last step is 7 times 8, which is 56. Then I can bring the two pieces together. I don't have anything to solve on the bottom. I have 56 divided by 4. And if you do 56 divided by 4, goes in one time, do my subtraction. So I get 4 goes into 16 4 times, and that's 0. So I get just a regular answer of 14. And then same thing for number 6. I'm going to solve that subtraction there. 4 minus 4 would be 0. Absolute value of 0 would be 0. And then 1/2 times 0 would be 0. So I bet that one was a little bit scary for some of you, but it actually is pretty easy. Okay, last two, I want you to pause and do those two on your own and unpause to check your work. All right, so I'm going to rewrite it so I have a little bit more space to do some work. So I am going to do the top first. 8 plus 2 is 10 to the second power, and 10 to the second power is like 10 times 10, which is 100. 4 plus 1 is 5 to the second, and 5 to the second power is 25. So I'm going to bring this over, but don't forget that subtract 4. So I have 100 over 25 minus 4. I can finish the fraction. 100 divided by 25 would be 4 minus 4. And then 4 minus 4 is 0. And then the very last one, 9 plus 5 was 14. 3 plus 4 is 7. So I have 5 minus 14 over 7. Finish that fraction. 14 divided by 7 is 2. And then 5 minus 2 would just be 3. If you have any questions, please make sure that you check in with your teacher.